Hey everybody, this is Bill with Live Simple, Live Free, and I'm down here. You guys know my son Barry. He's finally down here to help. And so we are going to tear into this mess underneath of the bathroom to replace a lot of the rotten wood and get rid of all that mold. I'm excited to finally get this work done. So this is where we're working, down underneath there. And with my bum knee, I can crawl under there, but I can't really kneel for very long. So I'm gonna be scooting on my butt, I guess, trying to help Barry. So we have mold in the house that we need to get rid of, we need to take care of. And here's the problem. This is the bathroom. There was a leak somewhere back behind here that was never fixed. And who knows how long it's been leaking. So the water's been running all the way down, and all down underneath it here, the wood, the joists, everything is all completely rotten. So we're probably going to have to take the whole shower out and then replace all of that wood and then put the shower back in again. Now this is the kitchen, excludes the construction mess in here. There should have been, this is the other side, the shower is right there. There should have been an access panel right there to be able to get in and fix that leak. The problem is there is not. So when you look down here in the cabinet, the access panel is actually down here. But notice there's no valves there. There's no way to get up inside where the valves are and where the leak is. And so there's a lot of leaking that's happened and a lot of rot right there. And you just can't get to the valves to replace it. Should have been able to go right through there to fix it and replace it. So that's the problem. Okay, so I'm underneath now, and here's what we're looking at. This is the drain for the shower. All that wood is actually good. Over here, this is where it starts to get rotten, and this beam goes from that post all the way over to that post, and this is what holds up the floor joists here. This entire beam right here is mush. I can take a screwdriver and just stick it right in there. And we're not talking the whole thing. From right here, the rest of it down is solid. So it's only like maybe a 6-foot section from here down to there, maybe even only a 4-foot section. So we're going to have to jack up the house, jack it up off of the posts, replace this entire beam right here, and then set it back down onto that beam, onto the new beam. Okay, so I think we have a new plan here. We were going to replace that beam that I told you about from that post all the way to that post. But this over to about here is still good. It's only a short little section that needs to be replaced. So we talked about it, and I think we're actually going to put in another cinder block post right here, like that post over there. We'll just dig down as far as we need to and then build a new cinder block post. Then we only have to replace that one short section instead of going all the way over there where this wood is all still good. So it's kind of a change in my mind because that's not what I originally planned. But actually in the long run, I think it's going to be faster and easier to do that. Go.
Let me mansplain a little bit the deal with asbestos shingles. There's so much misinformation and wrong thoughts about asbestos shingles, mainly from all the HGTV and all that stuff, scaremongering people. Okay, yes, asbestos is incredibly dangerous. You can get asbestosis, mesothelioma, all kinds of issues with it if you breathe it. The deal with asbestos shingles is the asbestos is encapsulated in all kinds of other concrete stuff. It's not just the pure form. There's a phrase called friable, which is what you really have to think about with asbestos. As it is right now on the shingle, I could lick it and not have any issues. The problem that you're going to run into that people have with specifically with the shingles is cutting them. If fibers are friable, which means airborne and breathable, that's when you get into trouble. So if I was to take a saw and cut along this, or take a hammer and pound it all apart and then breathe in all that stuff right into my face, yes, I'm getting asbestos in my lungs. That's not good. But if I'm just removing them, if I'm pulling them, as long as I'm not crushing them, breaking them apart, making all those fibers go up in the air, encapsulated, absolutely safe. And in fact, these have been on here since, when was this house built?
1950.
1950. They're in fantastic shape. I actually like asbestos shingles because you know what? They last forever. As long as you're not pounding them apart, breaking them apart, cutting them with saws. In fact, most townships say that it is not illegal to leave them on the house. It's illegal to break them apart. So if you encapsulate the house with like vinyl siding or anything like that, it's actually better to just entomb it and leave it instead of trying to figure out how to remove it, how to get it off of the house without breaking them, where to dump them. There's all kinds of weird rules and regulations. So don't panic. It's encapsulated in all kinds of paint, and you know, we're not cutting it with a saw. It's okay.
Also, this has been here since 1950. This is the laundry room, which was a later addition, and that was T111 wood siding. Look at the condition of the wood siding. We're going to have to be replacing all of that again because it's all rotting away, even though it was painted.
Yep.
But this will be there forever.
Yep.
Okay. You know, when you have a plumbing leak, it's no big deal if you find it and you fix it. This kind of stuff happens when there's a leak in the plumbing or in the roof that doesn't get fixed. And it just continues to get wet for months and months and years. Then you get this kind of mess. So that's why maintenance of anything where water is coming through, either in the plumbing or in the roof, is extremely important to avoid this kind of thing.
And making sure that you can see it and get to it so you can check on it, so it's not a hidden leak where the only way you find out about it is when your tub falls through the floor.
Right. The problem with this is that there was no access panel to the shower faucets, spigots, and so it was leaking there and nobody knew it until we discovered this mess.
Okay, so we have gotten all of the tiles off that we need to. Nobody died or anything. It was amazing. No hazmat suit required. I'm looking at the wall with the boards here. Gonna take out anything that's wet. Wetness makes mold. If you have food and water, you're gonna end up with mold. So we're gonna cut all of this out, replace all this with new plywood after we get the main beam under it. You can see the beam here, it's just mush. So big section is going to get replaced, and this way we're going to be able to get to it from the outside. Make sure everything gets tied into the rafters or the joists and all that stuff really well.
By the time we get down to here, it's all solid. So it's just that one little, probably 3 foot section or 4 foot section.
About here.
Yeah.
So life lesson number 823. Don't let your house leak, because this is what ends up happening to your main support beams for your house. It's just sawdust.
So this is the beam that we will be replacing. This is actually one solid beam. It's probably an 8x8 or something. We're going to have to go with multiple 2x8s. But yeah, no wonder we're smelling mold in there. When we get rid of this, replace all of this with good wood, that'll get rid of 98% of the mold right there.
Yep.
So now we've got it opened up so we can see what we're doing. All the way over there, right above the pier, there's a seam, a joint right there. So we'll go from there over to, this is solid, right there. It gets mushy. So we'll probably make another seam right here and just replace it from there over to there. And then we'll have to put another cinder block pier like that one right under here. So now that we have it opened up, we can see what we're what we're dealing with. And the end of the joists seem to be okay. So it's just this bottom one that we have to replace. What do you think? Should we replace that? What do you think?
Yeah, a little Bondo, it'll be all right.
Yeah, just cover it with paint.
Now, as I was editing this video, something just dawned on me. There is a small leak behind the shower, and we thought that that's what was causing all of this damage. And there is a leak behind the shower, which we still have to fix. But then I see this shot right here. Notice most of the damage is between here and here. And what is centered in that damage is this pipe right here. This is an old vent that goes through the roof that is no longer being used. And apparently when somebody did the work and they just abandoned that, they probably didn't cap off the top. So if it's still going through the roof, then every time it rains, a little bit of water gets down in there and runs down the pipe right onto this beam, and that could have been there for years and years. So I'm going to look and see. I'm going to have to go back to the house and look and see if that pipe is still going through the roof.
Yes, indeed. I'm here looking at the house again, and right up here you can see there is definitely the pipe still sticking through the roof. So I'm so glad that it dawned on me when I was doing the editing, because if I didn't fix this, the water would just still continue to run down that pipe right down onto the new beam that we just put in. And even though it's pressure treated, it would last a little bit longer. That's still not a good situation. So what I'm going to do is take a PVC end cap for pipe and take it up there, because that's cast iron. But I'll take it up there and I'll put construction glue around the top of it and set that cap on to glue it in place, and then that'll take care of it. That won't be on video, but that's what I'm going to do to fix it. So back to the regularly scheduled program. So this is actually very good news, because this is actually much less work than what we feared was going to be required. Just replace 4 feet and we're done, without tearing out the whole inside like we thought we were going to have to.
Just replace, he says, like it's easy or something.
Well, it's a lot easier than tearing out the whole inside of the bathroom like we thought.
Sure. Ready? Yep. Gotta come your way a little bit. I'm gonna have to try to get it around this pipe.
Okay.
Over here. Let me see how much it moves. That good? Yeah, right there, do it.
Turn it, twist it a little bit. I can't get it started.
Can you get it from the other side?
Huh?
Can you get it from the back?
How's the digging, Barry?
Like digging on the beach. Absolutely nothing like Virginia where they have actual dirt. This is almost cheating.
If we lived here, we wouldn't even need a backhoe.
Yeah, that's right. So Dad had a meeting he had to go get to. I thankfully have no life, so I figured I would just stay here and keep working. I have gotten the hole dug all the way down, probably as far as it needs to go. I was going to make sure it was below the frost line, but then I remembered Florida, there is no frost line. So it's down a good ways. I have some solid blocks acting as the footer. Because this is just going to be a supplemental post, a supplemental pier, I don't think it has to be really enormously strong. It's just going to be doing this little 4-foot section, but this is probably going to be absolutely fine. So I'm going to get this all packed back in, compacted, and go ahead and take the beam out. Actually, no, I can't put the blocks up yet because I managed to leave the adhesive in the car, which Dad has. We are going to use an industrial rock adhesive instead of mortar in all of those joints. This makes it go a lot faster and easier, and the modern glues are just as good, if not better, than mortar. So I'm gonna have to kind of back up and punt, leave this until Dad gets back. We're gonna have to have a new piece of plywood up here, so I'm gonna go ahead, measure that, get it cut, and just ready for whenever we can get to that point. There we go. So I'll just set this to the side and wait until we're actually ready to install it. It is now the next day. Dad has gone to the hardware store to get a few things. I didn't want to just sit in the car, so I'm going to start in on this. Next thing I've got to do is actually jack the house up, which is always fun. I've only got to go about 1/4 inch just to take the pressure off of this beam, but there's always risk involved with that. So let's see what happens. I'm just using a blade to go in between the floor joists and the beam just to see if there's that gap yet. It's a lot easier than just trying to eyeball it with all the cobwebs and everything in the way. So the two jacks and that 4x6 are now holding this whole section, you can see that there's a nice gap in between the floor joists and the beam, which means that I can now cut it right here. And also on this side, there's really only about 3/4 of an inch of overlap right here, which is ridiculous. I'm going to put it to at least 1.5 inches, which is the standard for bearing on a beam like this, which means sort of cutting off, you know, about 1 inch or so here. That way when the new boards go in, there's just more of a bite, more actual bearing weight instead of just this little bit. I'm going to start out with the circular saw and then move to the sawzall. Always got to make sure there's nothing on the inside that I'm going to end up cutting through that I don't want to. I wish I could say I've never done that before. And now just a little bit of concussive persuasion. Pop it right out. There we go.
So I'm back from the hardware store and I wanted to show you some more specific detail about how we're jacking this thing up, because I don't think I showed you that. This is a 4x6 that we screwed up to the bottom of the joists right here, and it spans all the way across the section that we want to cut out. And it's easy to see now that Barry has already cut that beam out. So it spans all the way across, and then we have just temporary post here with 2 hydraulic jacks, one there and one here.
These are
12-ton hydraulic jacks, manual, you know, with pump them up with your hand, and that actually will support the entire weight, not of the whole house of course, but of this little section. And so we can pump up that one, we can pump up this one, and it'll lift the entire section here. We only have to go up 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch, just enough to fit the new beam in there. And then of course we're now building this new pier here just in the middle, so we don't have to do the whole thing. So anyway, that's how we're jacking the house up. So Barry's cutting back a little bit more so that we have more of the new beam sitting on that post.
And now we've got about 3 inches of purchase instead of a 3/4 inch tiny little shelf. Muy bien.
So this is the end of the original beam that we cut out where it was rotted in here. This thing is one solid beam and it's 6 inches by 8 inches. That's a big beam. We're going to put in 3 2x8 side by side, which will make it only 4.5 inches by 8 inches, which will be fine because we're only spanning a 4-foot section.
Gotta make sure it's Guten plum.
Guten plum.
Yep.
Now we really should be using mortar probably between these blocks, but there's only a couple of blocks and we really don't want to get into mixing mortar for just that. So what we're using is construction adhesive that's designed for concrete. This is like stuff you would use to glue together blocks for a retaining wall or something like that. And especially since this is only a couple of blocks, this is going to be more than adequate and so much easier. You know, usually when Barry and I work together, and we work together as equally skilled carpenters or whatever, but for this job it's turning out that Barry's mostly doing the work and I'm just kind of acting as a helper. And I really appreciate that, Barry, because with my knee the way it is, I just can't squat down the way he's squatting right now. I can do that for a couple of minutes, but then I'm done. I can't do any more. I can crawl underneath if I'm scooting backwards on my butt, but I can't kneel at all. So this job would be very difficult for me to do right now. So I can't even begin to tell you how much I appreciate Barry coming down here to help me with this.
All right, I think we should put a beam or two in.
Okay. I have a beam or two.
Okay. Ooh, hold it right there.
Yeah. Yeah, you can see the line on the top.
Yeah, see it.
Installing the second 2x8.
Oh, we can't use these. These are only for sheds.
Oh, what are we gonna do?
Use them anyway. Don't tell anybody.
Now we also installed a third 2x8 right here and then nailed them all together. We just didn't film it. Now we put some flashing at the top of the new pier, and this actually has a twofold purpose. It keeps moisture away from the wood, but also by bending the edges down the way you see him doing it here, it keeps termites and other bugs from being able to crawl up into the wood from the ground.
back.
It's not really moving much.
Alright. Yeah,
It's almost there on that side, but not over here.
alright. Well, I mean, I can always move the stack.
Would it help if I jack this side up too?
Possibly. Yeah, ever so slightly.
Oop.
Alright.
Watch your fingers in there. Try the other side. Jack that again.
Yeah, I'm just going to see if we can sort of tap it in across. It's almost like work.
Yep.
I'm going to go down about half and give it to you.
Rest of the way.
Yep. Yeah, go ahead and drop it. There we go.
What do you think?
I think it's a house.
Yep. Looks like a plan to me. So we've got the new framing completely done. We've got that new post in right there. And you can see up here we have a triple beam in here to replace the old one. And we have it much further back. It used to only have about 1.5 inches. Now we got 3 or 4 inches there. And then we've got 2 new joists sistered next to the old one. This is not really rotten, but it's probably not quite as strong as it could be, so we sistered these in to give it some extra strength. This is just an old part of the plumbing. This probably was the vent that went through a roof at one point. Obviously that's no longer used, so we just leave it in place. Huh. It's almost like it was made for that spot.
Yeah, I just found this next to the road. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
So the siding is back on, and this is very brittle stuff. Down here, this was all broken out before we even took it down, but that'll be covered by the vinyl there. When we put this back on, that'll all be covered. We have two spots that broke out when we were trying to take it off, but I have the piece, and I can actually just glue it back in place with construction adhesive like that, and then once it's painted, which I'm going to be doing probably this summer, you won't even see those anymore. So this was really delicate working with this brittle asbestos siding, but we got it off, got it repaired underneath, got the siding back on. I'm very happy with the result. Of course, I still have to put the vinyl back on, the surround down below, the skirting, but I won't be doing that until after the mold guy, the mold remediation guy comes in, because he's going to be working underneath to take care of the mold. But that's another video. So that's how it's done, to replace all the rotten wood with good wood, to remove the biggest part of the mold. And now the only thing left is for the mold remediation guy to come in and take care of the little bit of mold that's left. And then hopefully by that time Elizabeth will be able to go into the house again. So I'm very happy with the outcome, and like I said earlier, this ended up being much less work than we actually feared it would be. So thanks for watching. Live simple, live free, you be blessed.